So in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state that on August 9th, 2019, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel-Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting, and will be available on Upper Township TV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. If I can ask all to rise for salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Barb. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr.
Here.
Mr. Coggins.
Here.
Mr. Corson.
Present.
Mr. Young.
Here.
And Mayor Palumbo is not absent this evening.
Can I have a motion of approval of the minutes, July 22nd, 2019 regular and closed session minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call roll, Barb.
Mr. Barr.
Yes.
Mr. Coggins.
Yes.
Mr. Corson.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion is carried. 4 in favor.
Okay, Barb, what we're going to do is, as we do normally when we have a recognition for an organization, Mr. Detroit, you want to come on up? Darrell? Darrell is the head of the Challenger program, which is a program in which, how many years now, Darrell? 11 years in which he has come up with special programs for our special needs young ladies and men in our community. It's been very successful. It's grown in leaps and bounds. And as you'll see tonight, I'm going to read a resolution, and it goes to give you an idea as far as how successful the program has been. So, in congratulating the Upper Township Challenger track and field team on their achievements in the New Jersey 2019 Special Olympics. Whereas the Upper Township Challenger Sports Special Olympics track and field team had an outstanding New Jersey 2019 Special Olympics attendance. And whereas all 21 athletes competed in 53 events, winning 32 gold medals, 11 silver medals, and 6 bronze medals. And whereas the Challenger Summer Games team was invited to compete in the New Jersey 2019 Special Olympics Games held June 7th, 2019 through June 9th, 2019 at the College of New Jersey and surrounding locations. Whereas the Challenger Summer Games team was comprised of 14 athletes that participated in 36 events, winning 11 gold medals, 8 silver medals, and 1 bronze medal. And whereas it is appropriate that on behalf of the citizens of Upper Township that we recognize and congratulate these young athletes listed as follows. I'll hold off on bringing everybody up. I'll read the rest of the resolution. Whereas we also extend this recognition and thanks to coaches Darrell Detroit, Jackie Adams, Megan Thompson, Amanda Schuler, Sarah Brown, Keith Bledford, Helena Mason, who have generously given their personal time and service to coach these young athletes. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee on behalf of the citizens of the Township of Upper to extend to the Upper Township Challenger Special Olympics track and field team congratulations on being New Jersey 2019 Special Olympics athletes, and to the coaches a heartfelt thanks and gratitude to their generous donation of their time and service to the young people of this community. Congratulations.
Before we bring them up, I'd just like to have Darrell say, how many kids are in the program? And I was completely floored when I found out how many volunteers there are that donate their time almost every week for these kids. And you're to be applauded for the example, but all the volunteers, and I know that it's a large, large amount, are also to be applauded for the work that you guys do on a continuing basis. And the Township is very proud. You're like one of the key programs in South Jersey now, from what I understand. And that's a good thing. I mean, as far as the talent that we put out with the kids, the hard work you're putting in, the diversity. We're doing dance, we're doing hockey, we're doing so many different things. And everybody's to be commended for doing that. But how many kids do you have in the program total?
Total athletes, over about 100.
About 100?
Different programs.
All right, and how about your volunteers? Because I know you have a ton of them.
Between all the programs, about 150 that come out.
Yeah. And at a time where we, and most of our rec programs, have a problem getting volunteers to coach as well as with our events, again, that's quite an accomplishment to have that many volunteers that work with these kids. So,
It's a great community.
great job.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Without any further ado, you want to hand out the certificates?
Sure.
If I call your name, if you would come up, please. Brett Petro?
Absolutely.
Alyssa Plafford? Stephen Rash? George Rose? Ian Thompson?
This is George Rose.
Abigail Tejada? Anuti Valero? Caitlin Mason? Louis Maddow? Mia Palmer?
I'm not sure which one's on here. What's your name? Move right there, everybody. Mr. Coordinator.
Chloe Byrne? Sean Carmichael? Cameron Detroit? Zeth Flintcroft? Kyle Zabrowski? Charles Johnson? Matthew Littell? Elijah Mason? Jessica Carmen? Kayla Carmen? And Amir Morales? Okay. And the coaches?
Daryl. That's me. Just in case.
I had the privilege of coaching him about.
Is Amanda here? Amanda Schuler?
Unfortunately not.
Megan Thomas? Jackie Adams? Sarah Brown? Keith Clifford? And Helena Mason? Is everybody here? Your whole crew's up here. I may as well stay up here, they're taller than me.
She's ready for it.
Here, right there.
The arrows just slide down. Everybody, big smile and be proud. Jeez. Make sure you
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we're getting the ice cream chainsaw. Thanks, Lyle.
Thank you, Darrell.
Hey, Ford, how you doing? Since we take it on kids.
Okay, Barb, we'll start back off with reports of the governing body.
Okay. Scott?
Scott?
Nothing to report this evening, sir, but I do have a report for closed session for safety and security.
All right, thank you, sir. Barb?
Nothing to report this evening, sir.
Mr. Young?
Thank
Nothing at this time, but we have a number of issues for closed session.
I'm sorry.
Paul?
Two things.
Time's up. There you go.
Ed's going for the record.
As you know, we've about 2 years ago we did 2 lots as part of our fair share plan for Habitat for Humanity. They have been trying to go through some of their process, and as they're seeing, and they're getting ready to. They started to break ground, but they're getting ready to start construction here in the next month. And they're seeing how long it took them to get to this point, so they'd like to start the process a little earlier. So in our housing plan, we had 2 other lots identified to donate to them. So they'd like to start that process again, and that's they were identified in our housing plan, and they're in block 630 in the Palermo section of Upper Township.
What do you need from us to get started?
We're going to need a donation ordinance.
We're going to need a donation ordinance,
Okay.
so just
direction?
a motion to direct that ordinance to be prepared and put on a future agenda.
Paul, you'll get me the information on lots.
I will.
So I need a motion.
Motion?
Motion?
Anybody have a motion there?
So moved?
Second.
Barb?
Okay. Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. The next thing I wanted to let you know about, and we received an updated flyer, but and I did put it in the SkyDrive to take a look at it, but it's a flyer that talks about the archaeologic dig that they did by the DOT up at the Route 49 and Route 50 intersection, and they found a lot of interesting artifacts, and they've actually created a display. It's on display over at the Petersburg Branch Library. So I encourage all of our residents to go and take a look at a lot of the artifacts, both Native American and early American artifacts that they found there at that site. So pretty interesting of what they were able to find there.
Well, there was talk about when they were done at the library about maybe trying to set it up in our foyer. Any talk about that still going on?
I'll
Just to
reach
try
out.
to reach a different group of people. I think if we could do it, it'd be nice.
How big of a display is it?
Not real big, I don't think.
Not too big. I mean, probably. I mean, it's set up differently. I mean, we might be able to put it in our front. I don't think it'd take. If you recall, when we had the display with the
All the trophies here.
the boat, the ship, on the model ship we had in the foyer, might take up that much space, or at least we can pare it down a little bit to create that little bit of an area.
Well, I was just thinking the Historical Society has the case across from the clerk's office. That would probably be the place to put it. It'd be a little more secure.
Secure
too.
there also.
Be more secure on a Wednesday.
Yes. So we'll take a look at it. If it's something that we can get. I mean, I'm hoping that we'll be able to, if if we move forward with the museum and Tuckahoe, that would obviously be a focal point that would be able to be utilized. But I'll follow it up. But I just wanted to let the committee know and just make an announcement for the public to kind of come out and take a look at some of the early American history that was found here in Upper Township. And that's all I had this evening.
Thanks. Barb?
I have nothing this evening.
John?
Nothing this evening. Oh, there is one thing. I was approached by some residents in on the Brewhouse Lane neighborhood, and the children's playground down there is in need of some attention.
We've been working on it.
Okay.
I know Jeremy went down, did an inspection on it, and we put together a program to get down there and take care of, repairing some of the stuff, maybe putting new benches in, different things, so.
Okay.
Again, now with the more manpower, I think we'll be able to keep up on these things a little bit better.
All right, sounds great.
So we are aware of it.
Nothing else?
Just a couple things. Again, every meeting I've been letting everybody know about the car show at Fall Fest, September 28th. I'm going to try to make it a big event again this year, so we'll need volunteers and help on that if anybody can. We had an issue again at Codwell Park the other night, and we had some kids in there in the parking lot in the pickup truck for the new stone parking lot we had, and tore that up pretty good. They were also drinking, and they smashed beer bottles and cans all over the playground. It was all over the apparatus, and luckily John and the guys got in there early and got it cleaned up before anybody got hurt on it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but in the interim, I've directed the football program and everybody else that front gate and the back gate will be locked as soon as the football program leaves, or any other organized organizations in there leaves. We've been locking it. Jay, what time?
By 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 o'clock, and this seems to be the time that when everybody leaves, that's when whoever's going in there is doing it. So we're either going to slide it shut or lock it at 8 o'clock or whatever time football's over.
Yeah, one of the things we might want to look at on the nights that football's not practicing, it might be a good idea just to plan on closing it at dark.
Yeah, and I think it's Tuesday. There's 2 nights that they don't practice. The rest of the time they're there.
I mean, it's, we've talked about security and cameras. I mean, trail cameras are the way to go with those lock boxes.
And I'd like to get it out to all the neighbors in that area and the parents involved in the sports programs. I mean, we need help monitoring our facilities. And if you see something, please, make the call or get a hold of one of us or call the state police.
Make the call to the New Jersey State Police, and they will respond.
I'd rather see them respond than it be nothing.
Everybody's got a cell phone. They all take pictures. The pictures are phenomenal.
And God forbid if one of those kids would have jumped on the slider or on the crawl over, and all that broken glass was up on top of it, and they would have got
And
sliced
the
up
other
pretty good.
recommendation is do not approach either. Do not engage anybody. That's what the state police, that's what they're responsible for doing.
Yeah, I'll remember that. So again, I think both parks, if it's an organized sport in there, that's one thing. If it's not, they should be closed that dark. And then at that point, we can maybe try to enforce a little better. And I still think we need a little better signage, bigger signage going into the parks that states that. So we have something to hang our hat on if we have to call
On
it.
Caldwell Park, there is a big sign on the gate that says park closes at dark.
But when the gates open.
No, even when the gate's open, you can see it. Yeah. No, it's very
So
visible.
again, just, it kind of really rubs me the wrong way with all the work we just put in there. They bent the new fencing we put up on the new parking lot. We had to go out there and regrade the entire parking lot and spent a couple hours trying to get the glass out of the mulch, which is almost an impossibility. So we're going to have to try to look and do something with it. Danny, the only other thing I had, and I was talking to Ed about it, is I got complaints today regarding Strathmere parking, and with residents blocking off parking spaces with trash cans and cones, and there's
There might be a
basketball
state
in there.
statute, I think there's a state statute about things in the roadway, obstructions in the roadway, leaving things in the roadway. We'd have to double check it. I defer to our experts in that area, but I did notice that somebody was complaining about trailers as well. We do have a municipal ordinance on things like that. They can be ticketed definitely under our ordinance. And if you want to pass an ordinance about blocking the roadway, blocking parking, we can add that to our ordinance if you want.
I told him I didn't know what the answer was, but I would ask tonight, so that's why I'm asking. The other thing is too, I think we used to have all the driveway openings painted out with the lines, and I think since we repaved, we haven't done
Striping.
any of that.
We've never had.
Well, then they did it themselves.
Right.
Because they were down there. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't behoove us to get down there and mark, the driveway apron out on each one of them during the off-season, not now. Just so we have, again, something that the troopers, if they do get down there, have a clear delineation of, who's parking where.
I think most troopers,
There is no answer to it.
I think most troopers can recognize a car in a driveway if they're called to the job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think a line's gonna make a
But
difference.
A lot of them don't have aprons. A lot of them don't have aprons down there or anything, and they're blocking off their entire property, so there's 40 feet, that they're taking up. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I told them I would ask.
As I said, there's probably state statute regarding the roadway blocking it. It's also our road, so if somebody's putting things out in the road, we have the right to go hold them if you wanted to actually do that.
Yeah, I'm just-
Obviously,
yeah, I don't know.
If you want to do that, you may want to warn them and say, look, we're going to take these away if you don't.
I think we should acknowledge the job that the state police has done over the last 2-3 months regarding additional patrols, regarding bike units that they've placed in there, regarding variable message board signs to warn those, and not just warn, but educate all the tourists and residents to the proper parking procedures now along Common.
That's what was good today, with all the complaints that were on Facebook. One of the things they did was compliment the state police, which I
Great
thought
job.
was a good thing.
If you want a municipal ordinance, the only thing that you mentioned that we do cover in our municipal ordinance
Is the
for
trailers.
tickets is trailers and things of that nature.
And abandoned vehicles, so I'm not sure how to handle it. I'm throwing it in your lap to see what you.
It might also be an education thing. We're going to start ticketing and moving blockage in the parking lanes. I mean,
It's going to be a learning
Tell
curve.
Strathmere Improvement Association, this is what's going to be done, it's going to be enforced. You may not have a trash can if you do that, you may not have your cones, and you may get ticketed.
Yes.
So that's one way of maybe trying to stop it.
It's a premium down there, that's for sure, so. That's what I have.
That's it.
That's it.
Mr. Corson. Thank you, Ed. I have one thing for closed session, real small for personnel. That's all I have.
Guess I'm not the bad, huh?
Mr. Barr.
Okay. We had recently had a resignation in Public Works, and at the recommendation of Scott over here, I'd like to make a motion that we look at Luke Isley and recommend him for employment,
Is that a labor?
depending upon
Labor position.
successful
And a
completion.
successful background check?
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
And Mr. Young?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, motion is carried, 3 in favor.
All right, Barb, move right into the resolutions.
Okay. All right. Item number 2 under resolutions. Appointing Matthew Steinthal as an emergency medical technician to the Upper Township Division of Emergency Medical Services.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
And Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 3, appointing Alexandra Cansey as a part-time employee to the Upper Township Division of Emergency Medical Services.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 4, appointing additional 2019 season beach patrol personnel.
Motion to approve?
Second. Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 5, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract with Shore Animal Control Services for animal control services in Upper Township.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, authorizing the award of a contract with Caprioni Portable Toilets for equipment rental.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 7, authorizing the award of a contract with CM3 Building Solutions for the installation and maintenance of township security systems.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 8, authorizing the engineer to prepare specifications and solicit bids for the replacement of Putnam Avenue and Sumner Avenue bulkheads.
Motion to authorize.
Second. Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 9, authorizing the township officials to sign agreements with Ocean First Bank for various accounts with regard to banking services.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, authorizing the use of facsimile signatures for banking services with Ocean First Bank.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 11, appointing James Dugan as lieutenant to the Upper Township 2019 Season Beach Patrol.
Motion to appoint.
Second. Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 12, supporting the installation of fire safety equipment warning lights along Route 50 and milepost 6.57, and authorizing a cost-sharing commitment for the project pursuant to NJDOT Policy 346.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 13, endorsing a complete streets policy for the Township of Upper.
What is that for the record, Paul? This,
Complete streets policy, discussed it briefly at the last meeting. It's a policy where as we do capital improvement projects on our roads, we will analyze and look at our road infrastructure to see if there's any need or necessity to make ADA improvements or bicycle or pedestrian improvements on the road. Most of what we'll be looking at is a lot of it will be, whether or not it would interconnect with our potential bike network. The planning board had adopted as part of their circulation element, as well as, obviously if it's a street up closer to one of the schools, of whether or not we want to add sidewalks for, walking to school and those kind of things. So it's just a program that the DOT encourages towns to look at when you're making capital improvements to your roads, that the roads aren't just, and the right-of-ways aren't just for cars, but they're for all modes of transportation and, that might use the,
It assists us in grant money to adopt a policy like this, correct?
excuse me?
It helps us with grants.
Yes, one of the grants that we've applied for, there's a check mark, do we have a complete streets policy? So anytime that we're applying for pedestrian safety, sidewalk type improvements is going to look better if, part of our policy and method is, do we look for those types of things and do we encourage it?
My question would be, is this a blanket approval for if we are doing a road repair, that we go in and paint a bike lane on the street, even if the width of the street does not necessarily warrant having a bike lane there?
No, part of, if you look at it, is setting up an advisory board, with different people, and that's part of the analysis that you'd make is, A, is it warranted or justified? Just because we're doing work on a street doesn't automatically mean, hey, it's part of a bike lane or a bike route. Because if it's a small little stub cul-de-sac street that doesn't really go anywhere, well, then there's really not necessarily a purpose.
It's not a mandatory program.
A fine
If
example.
that's what your concern is the state going to come in and say, you're not getting any money because you're not putting this in? What it is a guideline. It's rather extensive, but essentially it's subjective and more geared toward have you thought about this? Does this fit with your circulation for bicycles and pedestrians? And have you addressed these? And there are exceptions for what Paul said, the street's too narrow, it's a street that people wouldn't really ride bikes down, it doesn't connect to an artery, you know, that kind of thing. It's not a mandatory thing that someone from the outside is going to come in and say, okay, where is your bike path here?
Yeah, my concern is that, you know, any future paving projects would have our streets ending up to be like Strathmere, and frankly, I'd like to not see that happen in
All
other
they ask
places.
for is that you review it and analyze it under the policy, and if you feel it's not appropriate, you give reasons for why it's not appropriate.
I mean, I think
There's
a
I'm sorry, there's a 50-page manual that came with this. We didn't really adopt the manual, we adopted the general policy that was in it, but you can get a much better flavor for it when you read the manual. It's a lot of administrative guidance, but no direct requirement as to you have to do this on this street and that on that.
The requirement is you have to analyze and make an analysis of the streets that you're doing capital improvements on.
A fine
Got it.
example of if we ever go to approve Jonathan Landing, for example, if we were to put a bike path from Amanda's Field to Jonathan Landing, which we have an easement and all that to do it, it would probably trigger through this program grant money to do that.
It would help us apply for
Yes.
those types of grants, yes, most definitely.
Okay, Thank you.
I had the same concerns when I read it, as you can probably imagine.
And on that advisory board is the representative from Township Committee, so there'll be direct Township Committee involvement in, you know, making those findings and reviews.
Got it. Thank you.
Make a motion approved.
Second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 14, authorizing the engineer to sign, submit a revised application for recreation development to the Cape May County Open Space Program.
Move the resolution.
Second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 15, under ordinances, this is the public hearing. Public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 10, 2019, an ordinance amending revised general ordinance, Chapter 7 of the Code of Upper Township.
Before we go in the public session for this, do we have any discussion? Committee members?
This is simply the municipal companion to the no parking on Commonwealth.
Which is an advantage because up until this point, the no parking tickets that have been issued by the state police have been state violations. Now we'll be able to cite under a township ordinance, which then we'll be able to keep the fines here in the township.
Well, the state violations too, court appearance was mandatory.
Correct. Yes.
This they can plead guilty and pay.
Correct.
So that actually is a bit of a benefit to them.
That being said, anybody from the public, any comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve ordinance number 10 of 2019.
Second.
Call the roll, Barb?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried with all in favor.
Motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second. Call the roll, Barb?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
And there were a number of reports from the municipal departments, clerk's office, construction, division of EMS, finance, green team, municipal court, MUA, tax collector certification of the mailing of the 2019 final and 2020 preliminary tax bills, and advice copies. Motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Or accept.
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
And all those reports will be on our website. Okay, at this time, we open the public comment.
Hello, I'm Blanche Adams. It's Woodbine Road in Steelmantown, and I'm representing the Upper Township Business Association. And I just wanted to talk briefly about full interchange at exit 20 again. I had the occasion to attend a Calumet County Chamber of Commerce meeting where Senator Bob Andrewzak was present, and I asked him for an update on exit 20 on behalf of our members and our residents. And he told me that where they were now was an environmental study for wetlands. So it seems like we've been there before, so that was all I was able to get from him. So I tried to do a little research on it, and I went out to the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization, and I found a study that was done way back in 2004, and Paul, you're probably familiar with it, where it was recommended for the full interchange contingent upon the wetland study. So I don't know if that's still the same wetland study from 2004 being done, or if this is a second one. I didn't know if you had any insight about that or comments about like how we can keep this moving. You know, I don't know how long these studies take, 15 years, I don't know if it was the same study, but just in what way can we keep this front and center and try to kind of move through some roadblocks, and maybe the answer is to have more of a presence at the South Jersey Transportation Organization. So that's kind of what I wanted some feedback on.
The issue in 2004, why it didn't happen, is I don't remember if you remember, they had a freeholder race that was contested, and there was to put a full exchange there, it was going to involve tolls.
Yeah.
And they all campaigned with no new tolls in the parkway. So that's what happened with that, and it got scuttled. So the environmental study was probably never ordered in 2004.
And although I wasn't at the meeting, I did read about it, that there were some comments made, and I believe he was quoted in there saying that there may be some changes since that time period, and then that's why they're following up with another study. So,
Okay.
Wetland studies are only good for 5 years, so even if they had done one back in 2004.
It would be expired.
It would
No,
have
it's got to be
expired,
ordered.
in fact, they've done it new.
Okay, so I don't know if that's just like a stonewalling thing, or just like, what's your input? Where do we go from
Is there a way
here?
for us to find
Like, how
out?
do we go as a business
I can reach
organization?
back out, to the Parkway and find out its status. I don't know when the last time we've actually done a resolution, but, you know, the committee might want to consider doing a resolution, you know, considering tolls was an issue of why they didn't do the project, you know, there.
I mean, I
might be a
live
campaign.
south of that intersection. I would pay a toll to get on and go north.
Yeah, and I think that's the public consensus. The people that I've spoken to said, yeah, we'll do the tolls, you know, the toll isn't an issue right now.
I don't think the tolls are an issue. I think it's just the Parkway moving forward. My recollection is a meeting that the mayor had about a year ago, maybe a little less.
In fact, it was right after we did the resolution, he met with some of the officials.
Right, and my recollection, it's not entirely clear, but my recollection was it was positively received by the Parkway, but they said it was not in their current funding. So I don't know if it's in the current funding now, but it's probably right to go back to them and say, what's the status?
Yeah.
Should we do it by letter or by resolution?
You can adopt another resolution and then have somebody write a letter and say what's going on.
I'd like to make a motion, we have a resolution on our next agenda.
Second,
Call the roll, Barb?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Blanche.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, then we'll close our public comment portion and motion to go into closed session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters are contract negotiation for health benefits, special legal counsel for employment and labor law matters, Atlantic Investigations LLC, workers' compensation accounts. Also litigation, Upper Township versus Painter, affordable housing, and tax appeals. There's also safety and security and personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second. Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Goggins?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight, and drive home safely.